terms of being able to tackle inflation. Sumant, many thanks for joining us. Let's talk about the green focus of the budget, and there was plenty there, 35,000 crore rupees being allocated for the energy transition, a large part of that for retrofitting of OMCs. Your big takeaway as far as the green thrust of the budget was concerned and what it does for the transition.
Yeah, Shireen, let me first of all echo the words or the sentiments of some of my other co-panelists on this session. I too agree that this is a budget that has been able to pull off a fine balance between fiscal consolidation and encouraging growth. And it's been able to do that by really focusing on a number of sectors of the economy. And as Zareen said, it's really got something really in it for everybody, which is quite remarkable, actually. So I think really a budget that positions India well for dealing with a lot of the global uncertainties that exist, and also positioning India for long-term sustainable growth, which is going to be very positive. And especially in an election year, in a year in which there are so many global uncertainties, that's a pretty neat trick that the FM has been able to pull off in this budget. The green sector is another sector where there is quite a lot of meat in it. Clearly, the government has talked about the 35,000 crores of green transition for the energy transition that you talked about. In addition to that, of course, a couple of other programs such as the National Hydrogen Mission, which of course was announced earlier, but the FM did reiterate that and did again, sort of pledge to get to 5 million tons of green hydrogen per year by 2030, which itself, by the way, will require an investment of close to $200 billion over this time period. And then, the thing I liked about the budget was not that there was only stuff about the energy transition, but it really looked at the economy from a green lens and from a sustainability lens much more holistically. So, for example, there was talk about the mangrove, the Mishti project that the FM talked about, which is really about mangrove plantations, and really in some ways taking forward the Prime Minister's vision of life, which is lifestyle for the environment, looking at circularity in the economy, looking at, for example, how to do waste to gas and so on. So there were a number of schemes like that which are really new in a way, and really I think go towards greening the economy in a more fundamental way beyond just the energy transition. And I think that was really quite interesting and quite positive to see.
Well, joining me now is also the former Chief Economic Advisor and now Executive Director with the IMF, KV Subramaniam. He joins us all the way from the US. Mr. Subramaniam, many thanks for joining us. We spoke yesterday on what the economic survey had put out, and today the budget pretty much taking that forward. And what has been the big headline is the focus on CapEx, but not deviating from fiscal consolidation. I'll put out the word cloud for you. Budget 360, bold budget, triple C budget that focuses on capital, on capex, consumption, credit. Those have been some of the ways that people have described budget 2023. Over to you on what you make of it.
So for me, the key part has been that the, unlike in previous, instances like these, where this is the last full budget before the elections, there is extraordinary populism. I think that has been resisted, and that's very, very significant. Secondly, the emphasis on public capital expenditures, and this was part of the economic vision that India has adopted since COVID, starting from the 2021-22 budget. Now this is the third year in a row that actually it has been emphasized. So there's a significant continuity. And I think the articulation of the economic vision and the implementation of that, I think is significant. When I look at overall 4.5% of GDP together with incentives, given to states to step up capex, I think, you would recall that the 50-year loans were announced 2 years back. But this year, I think ensuring that, those can be availed only if it is spent by FY 23-24, I think is a very good step. Together with that, also the financial sector, I think the ECGLS scheme had done spectacularly well as part of the COVID, package. And I think doubling down on that through 2 lakh crores additional credit is, I think, good. I was looking at the economic survey data. Credit to MSMEs this year has averaged 35% plus, and I think this will give further boost to credit. To me, a fundamental reform, I think, which was mentioned, if you would recall, in the 2019-20 economic survey on the chapter on golden jubilee of bank nationalization, we had talked about the a registry for of data, financial sector data. We had called it the public sector banking network. The National Financial Information Registry is, I think, a step that actually captures that in spirit. I would wait for the details, but to me, it looks like a very important step because it will bring together data, and thereby reduce what we economists call asymmetric information, between lenders and borrowers. Together with the, measures taken compliances and the consumption boost that must come from from more disposable income in the hands of the middle class. I think overall many of the engines of the of the economy will actually start firing even higher with this budget.
Well, that is the hope and certainly the expectation, and by all accounts there is confidence that the numbers that have been projected in the budget will not just be met but perhaps will be beaten as well, and that is the expectation at this point in time. I'm going to get wrap-up comments from each one of you before I go back to KV Subramaniam. Vishesh, on balance now, do you believe that this does enough to unleash the animal spirits, which have now started to, as the survey said, there are incipient signs of private capital formation? Does it do enough to really unleash the animal spirits?
Well, it certainly does nothing to contain them. And I think that was the big thing that industry's always said. Don't give any surprises. Certainly that 10 lakh crore, 33% additional push to infrastructure to continue to prime the economy, does that. I think, some of the things, even if you look at what I said, principled budget, insurance as an investment product versus insurance as purely life cover. The idea here is to want to tax it if it's used as an investment product. Buy insurance for that life cover. If you look at the CSR spend, again, is it really a business furtherance expense or not? So I think very clearly, I think if anything, it does not contain the animal spirits, and I think India Inc. has the animal spirits as long as we go back to that trust-based governance. That's the single most ask of India.
Shardul Shroff, what do you believe the budget is going to do? The fine print is now done and dusted. We'll see what more emerges, but how does it really change things? Does it change the complexion, starting tomorrow?
I certainly believe so, because in my view, the ease of business angle, which government has always been talking about, has been attended to. You're clearly seeing issues of decriminalization taking place on a significant scale, not just the Companies Act and the Partnership Act, but across 42 laws. It's a significant change that is happening, and I think it's happening even in the Income Tax Act. Elements which were originally criminal consequences now are moving to a penalty and an adjudicating model. It will throw up issues in terms of training. It will throw up issues in terms of regulatory, arbitrage. Those are the kind of issues that we'll have to be careful about. But certainly, I agree with Rajiv when he says that this won't be less of accounting or less of lawyering.
You'll all be kept busy.
Oh,
You'll
yes.
all be kept busy. But Sunita Reddy, how busy are you likely to be given the allocation, especially there as far as healthcare is concerned? And of course, the government saying very clearly that it wants the private sector to be a co-participant in the development across these sectors.
Yes, I think that is the most compelling part. The fact that we shall partner with the government, especially if you look at AI, where they said they will set up 3 centers which will focus on AI. I believe that this focus and use of data will prompt clinical decision making and make it far more effective. The second part, which I found extremely exciting, is the fact that skilling will enable us to provide medical manpower to the rest of the world, not only for India, but for the rest of the world. Like we were the back office in IT, I believe that in healthcare, India has a huge opportunity to provide healthcare to our citizens as well as people across the world, and at 1/10 of the cost.
Yes, that certainly is an advantage that we enjoy. But KV Subramaniam, back to you. You talked about some of the things that you liked in the budget, and of course, I think what has gone down well, and the fear was that given the fact that this was the last full budget ahead of the election year, would there be any deviation on fiscal consolidation? That has not been the case. 6.4, 5.8, 4.5, sticking to that glide path and very confident that they should be able to get to that number.
I think so. I was looking at the, both the revenue and the expenditure numbers. And I think that encourages me because the overall, if you look at the corporate and the income tax, it's projected to grow at 10.5%. You would recall yesterday we were talking about how the nominal GDP itself is projected at 11%. And I think a tax buoyancy of 1.2 is what has been obtained in recent years. So I think 10.5% less than the nominal GDP itself is a very conservative estimate. So which then, asks the question, how is it that the fiscal consolidation is happening? So for that, we have to go and look at the expenditures. And I looked at the expenditure. Total expenditures have grown only at 7.5%, of which the major bulk, which is basically the central sector schemes, centrally sponsored schemes and other central sector expenditure, which accounts for actually 72% of overall expenditure, in the budgeted estimates, have grown by 8.2%. And significantly, one of the, the establishment expenditure, which basically is salaries and other similar items, have grown only at 1%. So clearly, there's expenditure rationalization. And that is why even with a significantly conservative estimate on the revenue side, I think the numbers look good. One point actually which I will mention as a slight concern, which is I look at the the non-tax revenue that's been budgeted to grow at 15%, of which the other non-tax revenue, I presume that might actually include privatization proceeds, I guess, are projected to grow at 22%. I mean, these are a smaller proportion of overall revenue, but still, I think this is something which seems like a black box to me. So if I have to nitpick, I would actually nitpick only on that part, in terms of the revenue projection. So overall, I think the 5.9% fiscal deficit target should definitely be possible to achieve, especially if the even if the nominal GDP 11% and even a 1.1 tax buoyancy, I think that should definitely be achievable.
Tax buoyancy of 1 is what they've factored in as far as this estimate is concerned. But Sumant, I'll give you wrap-up comments. As far as your own plans are concerned, your own business is concerned, in light of the announcements made before the budget and now in the budget, how much can we expect an acceleration?
Well, Shireen, we were already going at more than top speed earlier. I don't know whether it's physically going to be possible for us to increase our speed anymore. But I would only say the following, that, just if you look at the macroeconomic issues with fiscal consolidation happening, hopefully that keeps interest rates under check. As the capacity of the economy grows, hopefully inflation also stays low. And as the economy grows, power demand, of course, will grow and energy demand will grow. And that, therefore, in some ways, really de-risks our growth quite substantially. It also decreases the friction costs of the economy with better logistics and so on. And that, therefore, will allow us to really be able to deliver our product, which is really clean energy, hopefully at a lower price to end consumers. And given the fact that energy is an input cost to every single industry, hopefully that allows all of the Indian economy to become more competitive going forward. And I think those are the kinds of things that this budget really tends to achieve, which is lower the friction cost, make India a more competitive place for manufacturing, couple that with the PLI schemes, couple that with the global decoupling from China to some extent, and really offers up India as a great opportunity for getting much deeper into manufacturing than has so far been the case.
Well, offers up India as a great opportunity for the world. I think that is a perfect note to wrap up the CNBC TV18 Budget Town Hall. Sumant Sinha, Sunita Reddy, Zareen Daruwala, Shubhrakant Panda, KV Subramaniam, Rajiv Memani, Shardul Shroff and Vishesh Chandok. Many, many thanks for joining us here on the budget evening, or budget night actually. We've been here through the day and through early hours of this morning, but we're not done yet. We still have more to go. So taking a quick break, and we're back after this. N.K. Singh, the former chairman of the Finance Commission, the 15th Finance Commission, joins us. Rathin Roy will be with us as well. We're back in a minute.